Equally, I am honored to welcome Advocate Ashish Ketan. I would like to introduce him as an investigation journalist as well as a lawyer. Last day, when Munir Sahib was leaving to his home, I ran behind him and asked, tell me something about Ashish Ketan, which is so new to me. He introduced, or he recommended me one of the remarkable work of Ashish Ketan, that is Undercover, My Journey into the Darkness of Hindutva, which I had not read yet. Will be reading soon. I'll be grabbing it from Munir Sahib's table soon. Let me tell you something more about Ashish Ketan. Currently, I believe he is working as a professor in Jindal University, Law University. Actually, he was behind the investigation or the extremely covered or the investigation which has happened in the Gujarat. Many of his reports, basically the 3 reports which he had taken from the ground reality of the Gujarat, had even made the culprits throw into the prison. In discussion, I believe that we will be exploring more about his feelings, his emotions, which is which is related with the Gujarat riot. So we are having 2 esteemed guests today, which is a plenty for the day, which will take us to the real version of our country. And basically, the second session, disinformation versus democracy. Yes, the BJP government through social media and through other media, they are spreading hatred, misinformation, the false facts before us. So in this scenario, how can we overcome from such disinformation is a supreme question. Mr. Ashish Ketan will be dealing with this question in his talk. Above all, we are here today in remembrance of a great leader, C.H. Mohammed Koya. He urged us to lead with knowledge and with unwavering confidence. So, whatever knowledge we gather from here will help us, will lead us to move forward in more confidential and more strengthened way. And above all, this session will be chaired by Mr. Faisal Babu. He is a fellow member, same from a legal fraternity. He is an exceptional orator with his peculiar way of speaking in Kerala. I hand over this mic to Mr. Faisal Babu for chairing the session. Thank you and welcoming you all.
Good morning, all of you. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, Fatima Tahiliya. And this time we have a core concern of this seminar. That is, on the gray areas of contemporary India. Now we do have 2 special guests. Actually, we're supposed to plan this session, sir, 15 minutes, both. And the audience will be getting the chance to ask the question. Again, we'll be getting 5 minutes for closing. And we are planning to wind up the session 12:15. And this time, the session to Gyanshin Tiwari already, as Tahiliya introduced. He's an alumnus of the premier institutions like NIT, IIM Bangalore, Kellogg School of Management at Harvard Kennedy School, and invited to European Union under the Union Visitors Program. And he's also co-founder of Good at Technologies, a tech company, parliamentarian with innovations. In a professional career of over 2 decades, Gyansham has advised chief ministers and parliamentaries. Beyond all this profile, actually we invited Gyansham Tiwari. The reason is one, that is, he is the national spokesperson of Samajwadi Party. Federalism, technically that's the division of responsibilities, as we know. We used to say that police, land, law and order, all these are in terms of the state affairs. National internal security and the foreign affairs all are the national matters. But in terms of Indian federalism, it is not just in the perspective of West or America. Indian federalism is extremely different. We do have 28 states. That simply means we do have 28 Indias. Now BJP introducing one election, one India. Simply we know that it's again a bulldozer they are introducing. Bulldozer on, the diversities, linguistic diversity, in the local identities. ഈ അജണ്ട നമ്മൾ മനസ്സിലാക്കിയിട്ടുണ്ട്. ഇന്ത്യ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ആസ് ഡിഫൈൻഡ് ദ കോൺസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷൻ, ഭാരത് a unit of states എന്നാണ് ഇന്ത്യയെ നിർവചിച്ചിരിക്കുന്നത്. ഇന്ത്യ ഒന്നല്ല, ഇന്ത്യ പലതാണ്. ഫെഡറലിസം കൊണ്ട് അർത്ഥമാക്കുന്നത് ഈ പലതിനെ സംരക്ഷിക്കുക എന്നതാണ്. പക്ഷെ രാജ്യം ഭരിക്കുന്ന BJP ഈ പലതിനു മുകളിൽ ബുൾഡോസർ ഇടാൻ ആഗ്രഹിക്കുന്നു എന്നതാണ്. ഒരു രാജ്യം ഒരു തെരഞ്ഞെടുപ്പ് എന്നത് മോഡിയുടെ കുപ്പായത്തിൽ ഹിറ്റ്ലറെ മണക്കുന്നു, മുസോളിനിയെ മണക്കുന്നു, ഫാസിസത്തെ മണക്കുന്നു എന്ന് CH മുഹമ്മദ് കോയ സെമിനാർ അർത്ഥശങ്കക്കിടയില്ലാതെ പറയാൻ ആഗ്രഹിക്കുന്നു. അതുകൊണ്ട് ഈ സെമിനാർ നമുക്ക് കേവലം ഒരു അക്കാദമിക വ്യവഹാരമല്ല. കാരണം നമ്മൾ ഈ സെമിനാർ സംഘടിപ്പിക്കുന്നത് ഇൻ ദ പ്രിമൈസ് ഓഫ് CH മുഹമ്മദ് കോയ. If all the deliberations, discussion about CH Mohammed Koya could reduce to a single line, we can say that Gyanshamji and Ashishji, let me say that in a single line, who was CH Mohammed Koya and what is the profile of CH Mohammed Koya in terms of Kerala life and Mallu premise. No, a single day passes in Kerala without mentioning CH Mohammed Koya since September 28, 1983, after his death. Let me invite Gyansham Tiwari, sharing his thoughts, anxieties, perspectives on federalism at crossroads. Federalism നാൽക്കവലയിലാണ് എന്ന് നമുക്ക് വേണമെങ്കിൽ നേരെ ചൊവ്വേ മലയാളത്തിൽ ഇതിനെ പരിഭാഷപ്പെടുത്താം. ഫെഡറലിസത്തെ ഈ നാൽക്കവലയിൽ നിന്ന് കൃത്യമായൊരു വഴി പറയുന്നുണ്ട് മോഡി, RSS. അത് മനുവാദ ഇന്ത്യയുടെ RSSൻ്റെ നാഗ്പൂർ വഴിയിലേക്കാണ് ഈ രാജ്യത്തെ നയിക്കുന്നത് എന്നതാണ് 140 കോടി ഇന്ത്യൻ മനസ്സിൻ്റെ നിശ്ചയദാർഢ്യം കൊണ്ട് അതിനെ പ്രതിരോധിക്കാൻ പറ്റും. ആ പ്രതിരോധത്തിനകത്ത് ആശയപരമായ, ചിന്താപരമായ, ധൈഷണികമായ ആയുധങ്ങൾ നമുക്ക് വേണം. അത് സമാഹരിക്കുകയാണ് CH മുഹമ്മദ് കോയ നാഷണൽ സെമിനാർ. സർ Gyansham Tiwari, please come to the dais.
Good morning, friends. Thank you so much to this August Hall, to Dr. Munir, the entire organization, Mr. Fayaz, Thalia, and everyone who is organizing this important discussion at this important moment in the journey of our nation, India, an aspiration that remains unfulfilled from the dreams of our founding fathers to the ambitions of the next generation. When people like me stand in the shadows of tall leaders who spent a lifetime building India and parts of India, setting the architecture of education, setting the architecture of a science and knowledge that a future generation will prosper and go towards, one has to be humble and one has to start with asking the questions that what is it, notwithstanding what is going on in the country, that we collectively can do for the country. So before I speak about federalism, the challenges of federalism, let me ask some very basic questions. And I'll tell you why it is important for this discussion. I want to ask people in this room that how many of you here, please raise your hands, if you have lived or stayed for at least 2 days in a village of another state outside Kerala, please raise your hands. Okay, how many of you have stayed in more than 2 states outside Kerala in a village? Raise your hands. Fantastic. I think the reason I asked that is I want to relate this to my own journey. My father served the Indian Air Force. I was fortunate to grow up across the country. Born in Secunderabad, studied in Tamil Nadu, in Karnataka, in Maharashtra, in Punjab, in Uttar Pradesh, Rajasthan, and I come from Bihar. So this journey basically taught me about India before the Indian television channels can shout at me the definition of nationalism. I learned that when you travel across the country, you realize what federalism is in the spirit of Indian Constitution. Federalism is the idea that no matter which village, which city, which state people of India are, they are working honestly with their best skills, with their best intentions, to develop their family, their village, their town, their state, and in this way, they develop the nation. No one, when I traveled across the country in trains, I must tell you the longest train journey that I took was when I joined NIT Surathkal, not far away from here. This was in 1997. At that time, Konkan Railway was not built. It used to take 60 hours by train to travel from Kanpur to Mangalore. You go down the east coast, go up the west coast. And then the Konkan Railway came and it shortened the distance. And what I learned is nobody anywhere is looking for anyone's certificate, not the certificate of the top journalist on television, not the certificate of the Prime Minister, not the certificate of the Home Minister, or the Chief Minister of my state who came to Kerala, Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister, came to Kerala and said that the health system of Uttar Pradesh is better than the health system of Kerala. So, in days of today, I must state that as we are getting numbed down by a media that will shout false and propaganda at all of us, we have to believe in our own lived experience as citizens of India. And that is the reason I asked you to raise your hands. For the talk today, I wanted to think about what should I speak about. And then I saw these 2 newspapers. One is the newspaper from yesterday, and I see this photograph. How many of you identify this photograph? This is the photograph of some scheme in Maharashtra with the photograph of the Prime Minister. And then we look at the dreadful years of COVID and think that why should one man be there in every photo? The Prime Minister of India, current Prime Minister, has had his pictures printed in more places than one can imagine. He has more pictures taken than all Prime Ministers of India combined. All Chief Ministers of India combined. And the question is why? It is not that at age of 75 he thinks that he is the most handsome man in India. It is because they want to build a propaganda machine that he is the Messiah, one-man Messiah who can answer India. But when you try to become Messiah, and then you come to God's own country, and you want to simplify the God's own country into the story of a propaganda film called Kerala Story, it means that you are neither a Messiah, nor you truly understand the spirit of Indian Constitution. If you look at the newspaper, this is the newspaper of today. If you look at the newspaper, this is also a very interesting case. Today when we discuss about the crossroads of federalism in India, you just take the newspaper any day, and I can show the newspaper today. For example, the headline, Karnataka withdraws general consent for CBI to probe cases. That is one headline. Then there are several headlines that talk about, is India growth story benefiting only big capital? This is one of the articles. Then there is an article that talks about how different states are being told by the government. Here is what I wanted to point out to. Here's the Vice President of India. He says conversion antithetical to constitutional principles. Then there is a headline that says in Haryana, where the elections are going to happen, unemployment fuels discontent. You look at the next headline in the same newspaper, which really startled me. The headline says, this is the Education Minister of India. He says, non-BJP governments dangerous, incompetent, and have let down youth. In Haryana, BJP has been in power for 10 years. It's going to be thrown away by people of Haryana in the spirit that people of India believe in today. But we have an education minister. The previous page says that in Haryana, the single biggest factor that youth will vote for is unemployment. And the education minister of India says that it is the non-BJP states that are dangerous to India, that are building unemployment. So this is the situation that we as a country are in. When we look at our constitution, the constitution says that India is an inseparable union of states. Together we embody what India is. With our languages, with our regions, with our religions, with our way of life, with our dressing, with our ambitions. Every new generation embodies what India is. But the Prime Minister of India wants us to believe that only he embodies what India is. How many of you can imagine that one person can embody what India is? I believe nobody. Only a fool can believe that one person can embody what India is. So what is the mission of Bharatiya Janata Party? Turn everybody into fools. How are they going to turn everybody into fools? They are going to tell you, when you sitting here have built fantastic educational institutions like this one, they are going to tell you why, because of an incident that happened in Uttar Pradesh, the Hindus and Muslims and Christians in Kerala should fight among themselves. They are going to tell people in Uttar Pradesh why, because of an incident that happened in Kerala, the Hindus and Muslims in Uttar Pradesh should fight among themselves. They will put their tallest leaders, like Mr. Adityanath, like the Prime Minister himself, on the stage, on the highest stages across the world, and make this message loud and clear to you that only they are the Messiah and they are the ones who can save. When BJP said that they will do 400 par, that was when they underestimated the smartness of the average person in India. And that smartness is visible in Ayodhya. That smartness became visible in Banaras when the Prime Minister was almost defeated. That smartness is visible in Kerala, and that smartness is visible now everywhere. It will be visible in Maharashtra, it will be visible in Haryana. That people of India believe that if you can fool them once, it is not a guarantee that you will be able to fool them every time. This idea that BJP is trying to do is very simple. I will enact it here. My friend Ashish is here. If I steal his phone in front of you, right, and then say that I swear to God I am the most honest man, and even though I am holding the phone in front of you, but I am repeating, I swear to God I am the most honest man, then I go to a temple and I say, I swear to God I am the most honest man. And then I have the top 5 journalists who are in my pocket say that this Prime Minister is the most honest man. Soon you will forget that I stole his phone. And when he comes to take his phone back, you will blame him that he is telling my Prime Minister that he is not honest. When you look at the stories that are being played out by mainstream media, it is precisely these stories. These stories are playing out from the various functionaries of our constitution, the various pillars of constitution. For example, Parliament. Do you know that in the last 10 years, there have been more Sundays than the sitting of Indian Parliament? So if the parliament does not debate properly with facts, then where will debates happen? This government, the BJP government, one nation, one election government, or I think it is not one nation, one election. This government believes one nation and everyone is a fool. And it is that mission, they will come up with various things such as one nation, one election. But now they are discovering in parliament that people don't want to listen to what the Prime Minister is saying, what various ministers of BJP are saying, because they have stopped believing that one lie that they were repeating, that we are honest, when they were stealing all the time. They want to listen to Akhilesh Yadav ji. They want to listen to Rahul Gandhi ji. They want to listen to leaders from across the country because they want to know the real story. Today, when the parliament is empowered by the voice of people through opposition, BJP is scared. They don't know how to tell their lies anymore. So in summary, I want to say that in 10 years, we saw that from media to parliament to judiciary and to the way state governments were functioning, to the way the finance commission was giving or still giving allocations, the important functionary of government of India went on record to say that the Prime Minister told him to reduce the allocation to states that are entitled to finance commission. There are different ministers of states that have gone on record and say, from other opposition parties, have gone on record and said that this government does not give us the amount of money that is due to the state if one tiny thing is changed in the centrally sponsored scheme name or its branding. So we have seen 10 years of a model that did not believe in constitution, that did not believe in the common sense of people of India, that did not believe in the strength of pillars of Indian constitution, whether it is judiciary, whether it is the parliament, whether it is the executive itself. It did not believe in the collective wisdom that people of India were presenting in the form of different leaderships of different parties in the state. 2024, people of India demonstrated that their belief in Indian constitution is far more than their falling for propaganda of the Prime Minister and his media people and his crony capitalists and his party and his continuous tirade of hate against minorities of the country. Don't forget that this was the election when the Prime Minister targeted states. In those states, look at the belief that he has. He could target Mamata Banerjee ji in Bengal. He could target Akhilesh Yadav ji in Uttar Pradesh. He could target leaders of Kerala in Kerala. He could target leaders such as Sharad Pawar ji in Maharashtra. And obviously Arvind Kejriwal ji was in jail. Hemant Soren ji was in jail. This was the year that the BJP wanted to perfectly dismantle the constitution and set India on a disaster path. But people of India showed that they have a firm belief in federal structure of India. The final comment I want to make is, and I'll speak about it in the last 5 minutes, I don't want to take Ashish's time, is in the face of all this that is happening, do not forget that all this is happening because one party, one group has tried to bring all the power in their hands, bring all the money in their hands, and their only goal is that with that power and money, can they take over, hijack the common sense of people. If that happens, that is when the ultimate structure of our constitution will get dismantled. That is when people of Kerala will not believe people of Tamil Nadu, people of one village will not believe people of other village because they are from different communities. But that is not happening. And the responsibility that it will never ever happen again lies in us, all the people in this hall and across the country, that we will never believe in anybody's propaganda. We will go into the villages of our own country, the towns of our own country, experience the nation as it is, and understand that how federalism is working for India, for the progress of India, and how we are all part of it, and how our own lived experience is the source of strength that Constitution believes in from the point of view of federalism. With that, thank you so much for your audience. I look forward to your questions. Thanks again.
ഹലോ ഒരു 55X 2001. ഈ വണ്ടി മാറ്റി കൊടുത്താലും നമ്മുടെ ഒരു ഗസ്റ്റിന് തിരിച്ചു പോകാൻ കഴിയുള്ളൂ.
Thank you, Ghanshyam ji. Now we have the session of Ashish Kedan. Fascism does not just embraces the lies, but they are integrating them into a distinctive structure of truths for serving their political ends. നുണകളാണ് ഫാസിസത്തിൻ്റെ ഏറ്റവും വലിയ ആയുധം എന്നത് ഇന്ത്യയുടെ അനുഭവമാണ്. ആശിഷ് ഖേദൻ നമ്മോട് സംസാരിക്കുന്ന വിഷയം ഡിസ്ഇൻഫർമേഷൻ വേഴ്സസ് ഡെമോക്രസി, വൈ ദ ട്രൂത്ത് ഈസ് വൈറ്റൽ ഫോർ അവർ ഫ്യൂച്ചർ എന്നതാണ്. Disinformation simply means we can see disinformation and misinformation. And what is the difference? As Ashish told me that deliberate misinformation is disinformation. തെറ്റായ വിവരങ്ങൾ അബദ്ധത്തിൽ കിട്ടുകയല്ല, കൊടുക്കുകയല്ല, ബോധപൂർവം തെറ്റായ വിവരങ്ങൾ വിതരണം ചെയ്യുകയാണ് ഇന്ത്യൻ ഫാസിസം ചെയ്തുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്നത്. So let me invite Ashish Kedan ji. He is a Indian lawyer currently working in India and US. He was appointed as a vice chairman of Dialogue and Development Commission of Delhi, as being a think tank to the Delhi government. He was given the rank of cabinet minister for his contribution to the Delhi government. During his 3-year formulated major policies, recommendations, and a few legislations in the sectors such as energy, health, education, and urban development. And right now he left Aam Aadmi Party, currently working as a practicing lawyer, as I told you, India and US. So this is the time for Ashish Kedan. Let me invite him to the dais.
Thank you so much for a very generous introduction. So, good morning, all the esteemed guests and ladies and gentlemen in the audience. It's a pleasure to stand before you today and to discuss what I believe lies at the heart of every liberal, healthy, robust democracy, which is truth. In this age of social media, artificial intelligence, and hyperconnectivity, information is accessible to anyone having a smartphone. Now, this kid was there in front of us, he's also having a smartphone. So the question is no longer about finding information, but about finding truth and discerning truth from disinformation. Faisal Babu, when he was sitting next to me, he asked me what is the difference between misinformation and disinformation. But he added that place to the list of blasts that happened. Why? Because he didn't want the message to go out that there was a communal color behind the blasts. He wanted people and public at large not to get swayed by anger or emotions. And at that time there was no social media. There were no private channels either, private TV news channels either. There was just Doordarshan. So for quite some time, Doordarshan ran the news that at all these places blasts have happened, and they also added Muhammad Ali Road to that place. So that was misinformation. But what is disinformation? Disinformation is deliberate misinformation, not to prevent riots, but to stoke riots, to stoke hatred, animosity, resentment, and eventually an authoritarian takeover. Some of us may have watched the recent TV presidential debates that are happening in the US. In a recent debate between Trump and Kamala Harris, which was moderated by ABC anchors, while the debate was on, they fact-checked Trump multiple times on his deliberate disinformation. One, that immigrants from Haiti, they were eating people's pets, disinformation. That the 2020 election was stolen, disinformation. Some information about abortion laws, disinformation. Now, all this is deliberate, and deliberate towards polarizing and dividing societies. So this deliberate spread of falsehoods to spread hate and extremist ideas is becoming a global epidemic. Just going back to my conversation with Faisal Babu, he asked me about the Gujarat riots. He said, did disinformation play a role in Gujarat riots? And yes, disinformation played a huge role after the Godhra incident. There was private TV channels at that time, but there was still no Facebook, no WhatsApp, no Twitter, no social media. But there were local vernacular papers. Without naming the papers, those papers next day ran such incendiary communal headlines and patently false stories, which stoked so much of anger and so much of resentment and a feeling of revenge among the majority community. That was disinformation. Deliberate lies to divide, to polarize, and to incite violence. Today, the impact of disinformation is not restricted to any one country, one region, or one sector. From politics to public health, from climate change to war fields, from the Middle East to Ukraine, from India to United States, disinformation is poisoning public discourse, creating societal rifts, and undermining an international order that has taken decades to build. Disinformation threatens the very foundations of the world as we know it. It is weaponizing emotions, spreading fear, anger, and confusion, making it difficult for individuals to distinguish fact from fiction. In a country like ours, where diversity in language, religion, culture, and political perspectives is vast, the spread of false information is having devastating consequences. Now, some of you would remember there was an incident in Dhule in Maharashtra in 2018. 5 people were lynched by a mob after fake news of child kidnappers started circulating on WhatsApp. The victims were completely innocent. They were members of a nomadic community passing through a village. In 2020, in Palghar, Maharashtra, 2 Hindu sadhus and their driver were lynched by a vigilante group acting upon rumors about bandits operating in the area during nationwide lockdowns. And those rumors which led to those lynchings were fueled by WhatsApp messaging. But do some of you at least remember what happened after the incident, the sadhu incident in Palghar? Ghanshyam is a political activist and leader. He would certainly remember that after that incident, there was a massive disinformation campaign which was mounted not only in social media but by official handles of political parties and established news channels, trying to deliberately give a communal color to the whole incident when there was no communal color. But they ran campaign after campaign, and still if you see some of the references on social media, they still stick to that, that narrative, that false narrative, that there was a communal angle behind the incident, when there was none. Around the same time, if you remember, there was an actor who committed suicide in Bombay, Sushant Singh Rajput, and a massive disinformation campaign was launched. One, to target the ruling government at that time, which was the Uddhav Thackeray-led government. But also, in the process, it destroyed the lives and careers of so many people, including some of the friends of the deceased actor. In 2018, in Hapur, Uttar Pradesh, 45-year-old Mohammed Koya was lynched, and a 62-year-old Samiuddin was grievously injured by a mob due to fake news about cow slaughter. The incident was recorded on camera and then again circulated on social media, including WhatsApp. In 2018, in Jharkhand, viral WhatsApp messages led to the lynching of a 22-year-old Muslim youth called Tabrez Ansari, who was falsely accused of theft. So as we move forward in this digital age, truth clearly is no longer just a value that we were taught growing up by our parents, by our teachers, that it is important to speak truth. It is important to speak truth, yes, as individuals. It is good for our own character building, but it's no more just a question of an individual value. It is a question of life and death now. It is a question of public order and peace. It's the question of our ability and a feasibility to coexist peacefully with people who don't look like us, who don't eat like us, who don't wear clothes like us, which is, in short, truth has become vital for the survival of liberal, plural, democratic societies. Democracy thrives on informed citizens. Abraham Lincoln once said, "A government of the people, by the people, for the people shall not perish from the earth." Now, this statement rests on the premise that if people are well informed, they can make decisions based on facts. So an ill-informed citizenry is bad for democracy, but a disinformed citizenry will perish democracy. We are the largest democracy in the world. 900 million well-informed voters can challenge corruption. They can question crony capitalism. They can demand jobs, employment, better hospitals, schools, public infrastructure. A well-informed citizenry alone can make better political choices and demand accountability from leaders. But an ill-informed public will find it hard to make electoral choices that serves its best interests. But more dangerously, a disinformed public will give in to demagoguery, religious fanaticism, hate, animosity, and eventually an authoritarian takeover. According to a research published in the Journal of Democracy, disinformation undermines public trust in the media and democratic institutions, making it harder for citizens to engage in informed debate. When established media and established journalists are discredited and facts are questioned, it becomes increasingly difficult for voters to distinguish between truth and fiction, making democracy vulnerable to authoritarian influences. Put simply, without correct information, democracy fails. With disinformation, democracy disappears. According to a 2022 report by the Internet and Mobile Association of India, India has over 759 million internet users. We are the second largest internet market, just behind China. And a significant number of this large number of mobile internet users. They are from rural India who speak in multiple languages and have different cultural sensitivities. While this represents a great leap in access to information, it clearly increases the risk of disinformation. Platforms like WhatsApp, Facebook, and Twitter, they have become conduits for fake news, rumors, and conspiracy theories. A study by Microsoft in year 2019 found that India had the highest rate of exposure to fake news compared to other countries. 64% of respondents reported they encountered false or fake news online. 64% respondents from India. Now, this statistic should make us reflect on how vulnerable we are to falsehoods and why we need to take measures to combat this crisis. The 2019 general elections in India were fought on emotions of ultra-patriotism and chest-thumping nationalism. It saw widespread concerns about role of fake news in shaping voter behavior. And some of this fake news was coming right from the top. According to a BBC report, misleading rumors about prominent political personalities kept circulating. They kept coming back despite being refuted. One being that Sonia Gandhi was more rich than the Queen of England. And it kept coming, it kept circulating. Despite all the rebuttals and disclaimers, it went viral. A research paper titled Political Hazard Misinformation in the 2019 Indian General Election Campaign documented that misinformation on social media in the 2019 general election not only reached people through forwarded WhatsApp messages, but was also circulated online through official handles run by established political entities. During the 2024 election, which is the recent elections, we saw instances of political cadres and political parties circulating deep fake videos on WhatsApp and social media pages. Just yesterday, I was reading the news that a very senior senator in the United States, he was conned. He got an email from the ex-foreign minister of Ukraine that he wanted to have a Zoom call with him. And he sent him a link, and the Zoom call followed. And what was on the other side was not the real ex-foreign minister of Ukraine, but somebody who was faking him. So a deep fake video. And after some time, he realized that this doesn't appear to be all right, and then he immediately reported to the agencies. So AI, deepfake, combined with social media, perfect recipe for authoritarian and demagogue leaders. These kind of campaigns, they are aimed at manipulating voter behavior, weakening public trust, and skewing election results. And the impact of disinformation is not just limited to India. A 2019 report by the Oxford Internet Institute revealed that organized disinformation campaigns are operating in 70 countries, with India being one of the most targeted nations. The report emphasized that governments and political parties often sponsor disinformation campaigns to discredit opponents and manipulate public opinion. In 2016, the United States experienced an unprecedented level of foreign interference during its presidential election, primarily via social media disinformation campaigns. The Mueller report found that foreign agents used thousands of fake social media accounts to spread disinformation, targeting US voters. What was the goal? To erode trust in democratic institutions. Now the question is, why do people fall for disinformation? Growing up, I remember when Mrs. Indira Gandhi was assassinated. In the wake of her assassination, a lot of disinformation was spread deliberately by organizations who are capable of spreading this kind of information. And I also remember just few years before Indira Gandhi's assassination, when Sanjay Gandhi died in a tragic plane accident, there was disinformation circulating in my small town in Uttar Pradesh that when Indira Gandhi reached the spot of the accident, she was looking for Sanjay Gandhi's watch. That he was wearing some kind of watch in which there were all the foreign accounts, numbers of all the foreign accounts. And she was more concerned for the watch. And those were days where we simply relied on either word of mouth or on newspapers or on Doordarshan. But today, all this goes viral. It spreads like wildfire. Why? Because social media has this immense capability to amplify, to keep circulating this information till the time it seeps into public consciousness. So people have a tendency to fall disinformation. We love, as a species, human beings, Homo sapiens, we fall for stories, and spicier the story, the better it is, right? Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman said that humans are more likely to believe information that confirms their pre-existing beliefs, which is known as confirmation bias. What we already believe is true, we would fall for the information that further reinforces our bias. And this is why disinformation spreads on social media, because it appeals to our emotions rather than our rational minds. And the rise of echo chambers on social media further exacerbates this problem. A research by Princeton University found that people are more likely to encounter disinformation when they are part of closed, like-minded online communities where false information is repeatedly shared and amplified. So what can be done? So combating disinformation requires a multi-pronged approach involving governments, tech companies, civil society, and individual citizens. Some of the public school systems in Scandinavian countries, now they have started teaching children from a very young age how to discern misinformation or disinformation from facts. Children from a very young age, because they have access to devices, they have access to internet, they need to be taught from a very young age what is actually truth, what are facts, and what is fiction. As a very prominent US senator famously said, that we are all entitled to our opinions, but we are not entitled to facts, our own facts. We cannot make up our own facts. Secondly, media literacy is critical. In India, literacy rates, they vary greatly across regions. Kerala has almost 100% literacy, but some of the other states, especially in North and Central India, they are not high on literacy. So it's important to teach citizens, especially young people, how to critically evaluate the information they consume. Then we need strong regulation of digital platforms. Government and tech companies must collaborate to ensure that platforms are not used to spread hate speech. And fact-checking organizations and international bodies like Reuters, they play a critical role in debunking some of the false claims, but their reach is limited. And more needs to be done. And I see that around the world, now governments like Australia, in European Union, UK, they're doing a lot to combat disinformation because they have realized the critical link between disinformation and the survival of democracy. I do not have much hope from the current regime that this government will try and put a regulatory and legal framework to combat disinformation, but the next government, both in the states and at the central level, they have a huge challenge before them besides other challenges, which is how to combat disinformation, because this is becoming so dangerous and perilous that if it continues like this, our democracy, liberal constitutional democracy, will be in danger. I'd like to end with one more historical anecdote, that when Mahatma Gandhi was assassinated, and after his assassination, Nehru, as Prime Minister, he reached the spot. He saw that a lot of people were milling around Birla Mandir, Birla Temple, and a rumor started going around very fast that the person who assassinated, the assassin, was a Muslim. And Nehru realized that how dangerous it could be. He immediately jumped on the top of the wall of the Birla temple and he started shouting, "You fools! It is not a Muslim, it's a Hindu. It's a Hindu who has killed Mahatma Gandhi. It's a Hindu who has killed Mahatma Gandhi." Now, I think more than just standing on the walls, all of us collectively need to do a lot more, because merely shouting from the rooftop is not going to help. A lot more effort is required collectively from government, civil society, political parties, and all like-minded people to stop this menace of disinformation before it finishes our democracy. Thank you so much.
Hello. Yes, this is, now we have the opportunity to ask the question related to the themes presented by the distinguished guests and speakers. Thank you for Ashish Kedanji. മൈക്ക് കൊടുക്കണേ.
Hello, namaste. My name is Joseph Thomas. I am a freelance sociologist, social worker, traveled most of the India. So this is not a question or answer, only my opinion. Dr. Tiwari, a tragedy of democracy. Our former president, Dr. K.R. Narayanan, during his rule, an opinion in parliament, a whole party meeting ruling, Kootukashi Bharanam. Now we are implementing not a democracy, implementing minority against minority or against poor people. That's not a democracy. Democracy means their meaning, their opinion, and appreciation them. So this is a tragedy of democracy. Dr. Ketan, misinformation and disinformation. During the Operation Sri Lanka, IPKF, our forces so many years and a colony making. When we returning, not our decision, their Sri Lankans' decision, we come back and that government eradicate their against people. So, in Indian map, geographical, political, we shows Sri Lanka included. We do not shows Nepal, Bangladesh, Pakistan, China. I cannot understand why we are included.
Can you comment on that question?
I think on the nature of our democracy, this talk that my friend Ashish Ketan gave about how the pursuit of truth is becoming ultimately important for democracy. And in the age of AI, disinformation, misinformation, it will be even more important. So the voice of poor, the marginalized, the minority, eventually in a world which is rich of money, rich of media power, rich of few people having much more ability to communicate their message than others, I think the stack is right now put up against the poor and against the weak. That is where the society has to come together. We don't have to only rely on our constitutional methods and functioning. We have to also look at our social structure to see that does our social structure give the right voice to the minorities? Does our social structure give the right voice to the poor? Does our social structure give the right voice to women? Very important. And I think it is a collection of that. With respect to the misinformation, with respect to maps that nations play, I think Ashish can definitely comment. But it is an ongoing strategy of nations across the world to represent their map in a certain way, because a lot of disputes eventually that current generation and future generation are solving are in the conceptualization of what a national map is.
Sir, I am Shazni. I am an assistant professor. And I'd like to ask you about the misinformation versus disinformation. We are helplessly aware of the fact that all these things are happening and we don't know what to do. And what are the measures to be taken in avoiding this from happening again? And how these victims, there are already many victims who belong to the minority community. And being one among the minority, I am also scared while going to northern part of India. I am scared of traveling because of my identity. I wear hijab. I don't want to remove this just to be anywhere in this country. So what are the measures to be taken? And also one more question to Tiwari sir. How Samajwadi Party did manage to give a tight slap to Mr. Yogi by performing so well in the election? That's all, thank you.
So there is no doubt that minorities, communities, the marginalized, the minorities, they are the biggest victims of disinformation. And most of the fake news and organized disinformation campaigns, they are organized to stoke up majoritarianism and target minorities. One, as a community, we need to be extremely vigilant. The moment we come across any WhatsApp message, Facebook post, or Twitter post, or any kind of social media message which misrepresents the facts or stokes Islamophobia, it needs to be reported to authorities. It needs to be brought to the attention of the social media platforms as well. So as a community, I think a lot more has to be done. Ultimate onus lies on governments and tech companies. Tech companies, they need to put in more resources, and that again pressure has to be brought upon tech companies from the communities. Tech companies, in the name of that, look, we do not have enough manpower, we do not understand all the vernacular languages spoken in India, we do not understand all the dialects, they are not doing enough. Like recently, there was an incident in Faridabad, Haryana, where a Hindu boy was mistakenly killed by the cow vigilantes, and it was a case of mistaken identity. They chased him for 40-50 kilometers before they gunned him down. It was a car chase, and the man who was responsible behind it, he was running an organization, and that organization was running an organized campaign for multiple years on Facebook, on YouTube. There were hundreds of thousands of followers that he commanded. So he was running a whole digital empire, a very dangerous digital empire. And the question is, why that was not flagged by one, the local community, civil society, and obviously the governments completely failed. But nobody flagged it. So as a community, we need to be more vigilant. That's all what we can do as citizens. And we need to pressurize the government and the tech companies to do more.
Sir,
adding on the questions to Ashish Ketan, this misinformation and there are many riots happened in India. The last one is a Delhi riot, then Muzaffarnagar and Gujarat and everything. I think all are happened because of this misinformation and the planned one. And how and who are behind these riots? And is there any architect behind this riot?
There is a lot of literature. I have written a whole book, and much of my journalistic work was in this area, which is of organized violence. We all know who are behind these riots and organized violence. And you are absolutely right. Muzaffarnagar riots, before that Gujarat riots, even the 1984 anti-Sikh riots, and the most latest one being the Delhi riots, 2020. Disinformation played a huge role. In fact, in many of the charge sheets filed in the Delhi riot cases, they document the WhatsApp messages that were circulated between groups of weapon-wielding right-wing cadres who were patrolling the streets, and they were sharing messages among themselves, and then specifically targeting certain localities and certain people. So, sad part is that both the tech companies and the people who are behind it, they get away. And that's why there have been riots after riots and riot after riots and lynchings after lynchings and incidents of like the one which happened recently in Faridabad. So accountability has to be fixed, and that's where we are lacking.
I think the question that my sister asked about the fear of traveling to the north, also about the Samajwadi Party. I think sometimes we have to, with respect to misinformation, we have to go to the basics. When we were all living in villages and we were not living as a global community, always connected, there were places, gatherings of people which were in almost like a truth forum or truth webinar, where things will be discussed. I think it is important in the world that we are going to face that there are gatherings that are regularly held, almost like a therapy for society. There are gatherings that are regularly held, which are multicultural, multi-faith, where things are discussed, the current situation in society is discussed. Surveys are used to understand what is the level of misinformation that exists in society, and then in a collective manner, that misinformation is debunked. Because if that misinformation is not debunked, it will lead to a future volatile situation of violence. Second, I think it is extremely important, notwithstanding the fear narratives that the media plays out on the behest of BJP, it is extremely important that we, the people of India, believe that we are an inseparable union of states, which means that we have to have the joy and enthusiasm to go from one part of India to another part of India and not give in to fears. If you fear and as a result you do not travel, you will give in to their designs. What you would need to do is use the same social media that they have used to build narratives to possibly find friends, other professors. My sister said she's a professor. Find other professors who are already there. Do such academic events or other events. Maybe your college alumni, Calicut University alumni are there in those places. Use those friendly bonds which are not dependent on religion or ethnicity or language to go and travel and as a result ensure that this fear will not happen. As far as another thing about, I was recently in the US for a study tour on American elections, and I met a lot of people on both sides, Republicans and Democrats. And one of the strategists said that, look, we cannot fight misinformation. But what they have realized in their own methods of communication is humor is a huge antidote to misinformation. So if Kerala, for example, is the hub of creativity, is the hub of all kinds of creative art, culture, theater, cinema. The world that we are going towards, driven by artificial intelligence, technology will break down the barriers of language. So you can communicate in Malayalam and somebody can listen in Hindi. And the political discourse on language will change as a result. I think we have to look collectively as people who are being targeted by this misinformation to use humor as a way to counter them. If they want to distrust your food, what you are carrying in your tiffin, use a Modi picture from the newspaper, wrap your food in that Modi picture and say that, this is now pious food, right? Use all kinds of creative methods, humor, to ensure that their designs are not carried forward. This links to what happened in Uttar Pradesh. If you look at my party's Supremo, National President Akhilesh Yadav ji, if you look at his speeches in Parliament, a lot of it is wit and humor. If you look at his way to deal with Yogi Adityanath, right, who's always angry, he's always angry. I mean, if you get up and see the mirror and you find that your hair is missing, it's every day. You can get angry every day. So the way to rebut such people is that you use good humor and then focus on people. The reason BJP lost the plot in Uttar Pradesh goes to the most central thing about Indian politics. Indian politics is still about the voice of the poor, the voice of the disenfranchised. And the day the poor start believing that you have fooled him or her, them or their society, they will not come back anytime soon to you. In Uttar Pradesh, the poor, the backwards, the Dalits, the women, minorities, farmers began believing that BJP has fooled them. And no matter how hard they try now, they can't turn it back. The Laddu controversy or the nameplate controversy, all kinds of things they will do. But the brand Modi and brand Yogi has melted like ice cream melts on a hot summer day. Once it has melted, no matter how much you try, it is not going to become ice cream again. So I think in Uttar Pradesh, when BJP realized that in the hot summer of April, May and June, they wanted people to vote on the soothing agenda that we built a temple. In February, it was an agenda that could soothe a lot of people. Right? As politicians, we say that here are the facts, but we also look at the temperament of people. In February, it was soothing to a lot of people, but by the time it was April, May, June, people wanted to answer the hard questions. That where are my jobs? How am I going to fight the inflation that is there? I am unable to make my ends meet. How am I going to pay for the medicines that my family requires? The education that my children are getting for the fee that I am paying is not going to give them a good career. All these were real questions, and from Prime Minister to Adityanath, unfortunately the thing about the dictatorship model is that if the dictator gets up in the night and he wants everybody to say Suprabhat, everybody says Suprabhat, especially in his party and his media. So Prime Minister was saying Suprabhat when everybody wanted to see that there is a night ahead of us, we are not able to make ends meet, and Akhilesh Yadav ji and Rahul Gandhi ji and everyone in opposition, from caste census to MSP to farm prices to employment for the youth to allowances that will be given to women from poor families. They were talking about how do we get past this night that is affecting 80% of Indians. And it is in that, because BJP still remains in this echo chamber where they believe that Prime Minister is a messiah, an incarnation of God, and people have stopped believing it, they are not going to get past it. Nobody is going to tell the emperor that you have no clothes. It is the people who see it, and as a result in Haryana, in Maharashtra, in Uttar Pradesh, in Kerala, anywhere they go, the people will tell the emperor through their votes that emperor has no clothes.
Hi sir. First of I'm Mohammed Danish. I did my master's in social entrepreneurship from TIS. So my question is, from the perspective of an identity political party, with respect to Kerala and to the situation in Uttar Pradesh. The main perspective that comes up when we discuss about the minority political organization, when it, when it comes to Kerala, is that the organizing power of the minority community has made what Kerala Muslims specifically today is in a, or we can see a clear lacuna of the same organizing power in terms of political or other social progressive stances. So I need to understand the perspective of minority organization from the perspective that you have seen from the realities in UP. And the second part of my question is, with respect to BJP votes, a good number of votes have swayed in 2024 election, as we know. But how much of those votes do you think have been captured by the core RSS ideology and the core RSS cadre base? So, as we know, even though the votes have been tilted, the whole narrative around the election campaign has been an agenda put by RSS, right? So, how much of shift in this agenda can be possible as we come forth towards, even if there is a change in politics? So, this.
So I think being from a Hindu community, right, and my best relationships and life experiences that teach me about other communities are the way I understand other communities. And there was a time in India when we grow up saying that Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, Isai aapas mein hai, bhai bhai. That was sung in every school, every week. And to this day, when every day the media is just doing the opposite. Last 10 years, do not forget that the Indian media, its leading channels, especially the national channels, have shown Hindu-Muslim debates almost every day. Every day, and they will not stop. So the challenge is not just for the for the Muslim family in Uttar Pradesh. When you are being marked as a collective identity, whether you are Hindu, Christian, Sikh, anybody, in any misinformation campaign, you are being pointed out as a identity. And then you will say, okay, what happened in another part of the world? Syria should also have an identity on the Indian Muslim. What happened in Gaza will also have an identity on the Indian Muslim. This is how they build the narrative, because their goal is to build mistrust. I think if a future, and my young friend asked this question, so I'm saying, if a future generation has to look at the destructive model of identity that BJP has created to build distrust and hatred, one has to look at constructive ways, both humor and other, to demonstrate their own identity. There was days when we believed as a culture that if you are a very good person, you don't have to go out and say that I am a very good person. Right? So we were not saying, communities were not saying that we are very good. So the other person who had dangerous designs started saying that they are very good and certain communities are very bad. And people started believing that, because people had, very few people had real life experiences with the other community. So it is time for the best and the brightest people in the community to rise, demonstrate their capabilities, build their positive agenda, because this machine that BJP has built to debrand, stigmatize a community is not going away. No matter how many elections they lose, now they have tasted blood. So that machine is not going away. The response to that machine is a positive machine. That how collectively as a society we succeed, how collectively as a society we contribute to society, the doctors in the community, the sportspersons in the community, the actors in the community, all that good work has to be showcased, because if it is not showcased, trust me, whether you are Shah Rukh Khan or a poor Muslim family in Muradabad, you will be targeted. So it is almost like an armor for every community in India today, especially the minority communities, to showcase their work, to build a strong narrative that nobody can come and poison, right? That is the only thing that I can think of right now. Collective forums, look at things that bring that collectivity. Sports, arts, cinema brings collectivity. So there has to be collective forums where if we look back on the cinema of the time India gained independence, when we gained independence as a country, no one believed that we will stay united as a country. The world did not believe that we will stay united as a country. But if you look at the cinema that came out in 1940, 1950, 1960 and so on, that demonstrated the spirit of staying united, whether it is an Amar Akbar Antony movie or something else. Today, if you look at the designs of BJP, they are destructing all those methods. And unfortunately, in the north, the poison levels had reached so much that the antidote is not easily created. But in the south, which is truly the most powerful brain trust of India, every southern state has a very well-developed creative industry, very well-developed technology foundation. So if this new antidote that ensures that India remains a secular country, India has federalism, India can fight disinformation, that antidote can fight misinformation, that antidote, the south of India is much more better placed to build that antidote. So I think that is my answer. I don't know if it covers everything, but that's my answer.
My question is to Tiwari ji. In the last Lok Sabha election, 18 to 21 seats would have been added to the kitty of India Alliance if alliance was made with BSP. My question is it because of the big brother attitude of Samajwadi Party or big sister attitude of Mayawati?
I think that Akhilesh Yadav ji, as a young leader, has always and with a very good sense of respect and trust put out his hand of friendship and alliance with all the like-minded parties. Whether in 2017 it was Congress, in the 2022, in the 2019 elections with BSP, in 2022 elections with various parties, or even in this election. I think one has to understand that, and Ashish ji is here, he has worked with Aam Aadmi Party. The dictatorial assault that BJP can put on a party can be very destabilizing, right? Think about what it does to its own long-standing allies such as Shiv Sena. Two people who Modi ji called their mentor, Sharad Pawar ji. If they can do that to those parties which are, which were in power when Shiv Sena was destructed by BJP, they were in power in Maharashtra. So I think it is not just about two parties in this scenario forging an alliance because that is good for country and good for India. It is also the kind of pressure BJP can put on a party, right? So I think it was a pragmatic choice probably on BSP to take a certain stand, but it did not stop people of Uttar Pradesh. For example, if you look at the numbers, in 2022, BSP got around 1 crore 10 lakh votes in Uttar Pradesh, 2022 assembly elections. This election, they got around 70 lakh votes in Uttar Pradesh. So 40 lakh less votes. And this is a party that gets its votes from the poorest of the poor or from the most disenfranchised. So when the poor stop believing that, you are good for their basic ambition of having a good life, and they start believing a different party, then it is a party that has to reinvent. I think that this 2024 performance brings the focus on Mayawati ji and her party to get their voice back, because those who voted for the party don't think they have their own voice. Right? So that is what I think is about the alliance.
My question is to both of you. Ashish Khetanji said that in Scandinavian schools, the students are taught to differentiate between truth and false. But in India, there are about 12,000 schools run by RSS in the name Vidya Bharati, and 32 million students are taught how disinformation can be used for spreading Hindutva throughout the country. So how we are going to defend this? My question is, Tiwari, is why don't you start secular schools against this Vidya Bharati, at least in Uttar Pradesh, under the leadership of Samajwadi, so they can differentiate truth and false?
I think from personal experience standpoint, I studied in Kendriya Vidyalaya. The reason I believe in the ideals of secularism predates my joining politics. Because my father served Air Force, you could see in everyday life that how people across the country are not in their spirit divided on religion, language, and the states that they come from. Right? I think every school, by definition, the songs that were sung in the schools was secular. It's only one particular organization decided to build a certain schools. But eventually, behind going to school, the ambition of a family is that the child should find employment. Right? Eventually, the child should succeed in their career as they grow as an adult. I think it is the failure of that ambition in some of the schools that are run by ideology organizations that will turn people away from those schools and bring them to schools that can really develop their character, but also give them a career profile that is built towards success. And in that, absolutely you are right that we have to look at Samajwadi schools. But I think we have to generally look at education overall that can orient our children towards success in the age of AI. Today, when you went to school, or when Mohammed Koya ji built the education platform and the architecture, those were days of information deficient society, where you go to school, you will find books, you will get teachers, and you will learn the right information. As a result, you will understand the world and a certain part of technology. Today, we are in the information surplus society, where technology is already giving you all the information. Not only that, the technology is also telling you how to think. Because when you watch a video on YouTube, it will tell you what the next video is. Right? Similarly, Instagram, similarly others. So technology is not just giving you information, it's telling you how to think. So I think in this information surplus society, it is important that the spirit of secular education is there, not just on physical schools, but also digital schools. And it is a collective work. I think that, I at least based on my experience think that we need to have pan-India programs where students from one state regularly come and stay in another state for a month in a school year, or for 1 week in a school year, to experience the multiculturalism of India. That will embody everything from secular thoughts to multicultural to strengthening the identity of states, and will fundamentally defeat the BJP model. That is how I think. I think it's the greater interaction of people from diverse backgrounds becoming an important part of education system is the way forward.
There is no doubt about that secular organizations and secular parties, we have been too complacent and lackadaisical when it comes to building institutions. In fact, the institutions that we inherited at the time of independence, like Congress Seva Dal, we did not pay enough attention to those institutions. So we have been very poor in institution building. That's the bottom line. And those institution building needs to be done in all spheres of life. Education is one, but in social life as well. The problem is that our opponent, ideological opponents, from India to the United States, they are very good in building institutions. And now, with the aid of digital technologies, they have amplified their efforts. And on that count also we are lacking. So bottom line, build institutions. And if there is one lesson that we can draw from Mahatma Gandhi's life, that wherever he went, he built institutions. From South Africa to Gujarat to Maharashtra to Bihar, wherever he went, he left behind institutions.
So now we are going to wind up.
സമയമുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ ഒരു ചെറിയൊരു ചോദ്യം ചോദിക്കാം.
Please ask. And this will be the last question.
Yes. I was a student of Aligarh Muslim University for 2 years in the Department of History, and now I retired as a professor of history from Farouk College. When I reached in 1980 for my post-graduation in Aligarh, there was a news item in Times of India. Peace gone to pieces and 10 killed in Aligarh. Number one. Number two, another spread of information. अफवाहें फैलाने वाला देश का दुश्मन है. अफवाहें फैलाने वाला देश का दुश्मन है. And I have got admission in AMU, and I asked my class fellows, what are all these things? One is a news item is in Times of India. The other is government propaganda. So he told me, he now is a head of the department of Aligarh Muslim University history. He told me, Nadeem Sahab, he told me that here no voluntary rights are going. Instead, rights are intentionally organized. Intentionally, that's underlined is to be there, intentionally organized. So without any information, without any planning, nothing is happening. So my conclusion is that, can we establish, as Dr. Munir Saab referred here, an establishment which convey honest news in India? For example, I think Al Jazeera like media house. A second question, very simple. Your opinion, is there any media house in India which comparatively convey correct information or close to correct information? Just schedule it. Thank you.
I think if one analyzes the performance of most media channels of the past 10 years on the compass of truth, then any such commission will ban or shut down a lot of these channels. Just on the compass of truth. As far as having a news channel that communicates truth, I think different countries experiment with that. There is no silver bullet for it. It has to be a set of activities. But those activities cannot succeed if the government at the top, at the level of Prime Minister, wants to use propaganda for his campaign. So I think in a nation like India, where still institutional strength is not at its right level, it is only growing, but it's not at the right level. I think if the governments decide to choose propaganda over truth, I don't think media can face such governments without getting compromised. So we can be hopeful, but in the world of social media, in the world of YouTube channels, I think one can also be hopeful about the fact that technology is creating some avenues by which people are building their profile as better journalists, well-researched informants to society. I come back to the point that rather than only depending on news channels, I think almost like a armor against emerging the world of AI and technology, we have to create systems of collective physical discussions among communities at a larger scale, webinar and other such things, localized discussions, such that misinformation that can be dangerous to the community is not spread or it does not sit in the minds of people at large. That is the only thing that I think is possible.
Gyanshamji showed the today's newspaper, that the Indian Express. Sir, can we conclude now? Okay, of course. Ashish ji, any more words? You please do. Okay. Okay. Okay, and നമ്മൾ മലയാള സിനിമയിൽ പറഞ്ഞ പോലെ എൻ്റെ തല എൻ്റെ ഫിഗർ. മഹാരാഷ്ട്രയിലെ ഒരു സംസ്ഥാന സർക്കാരുമായി ബന്ധപ്പെട്ട ഒരു പരസ്യത്തിലും അവിടുത്തെ മുഖ്യമന്ത്രിയേക്കാൾ ഉയരത്തിൽ നരേന്ദ്രമോദിയെ കാണിക്കുന്നു എന്നത് ഇന്നത്തെ ഇന്ത്യൻ എക്സ്പ്രസിൻ്റെ പരസ്യമാണ്. So Gyanshamji refers this advertisement the question of federalism, how the federalism dilutes. So very wonderful presentation by Gyansham Tiwari ji. So we, the CH Mohammed Koya National Seminar, the organizers, extends our heartfelt thanks and gratitude to Gyanshamji ji. ഇന്ത്യയുടെ സ്വാതന്ത്ര്യശേഷം ഗാന്ധിജി കൊല്ലപ്പെട്ടപ്പോൾ ഒരുപാട് ആശങ്കകളുണ്ടാകും. പക്ഷേ അതിലേറ്റവും പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട ഒരു ആശങ്ക, ഗാന്ധിജിയെ കൊന്നത് മുസ്ലിമല്ല ഹിന്ദുവാണ് എന്ന് പറയേണ്ടി വരികയാണ്. ആശിഷ് പങ്കുവച്ച ഏറ്റവും വലിയ ദുഃഖമാണത്. ഡിസ്ഇൻഫർമേഷൻ, മിസ്ഇൻഫർമേഷൻ എങ്ങനെ പ്രവർത്തിക്കുന്നു എന്നതാണ്. അതിനുശേഷം ശരത് പവാർജി added the name of the Muhammad Ali, wrote the list of the including the series of bomb blast. 1992 ബാബരി മസ്ജിദിൻ്റെ പതനത്തിൻ്റെ പ്രതികരണം എന്നോണം 93 മുംബൈയിൽ കലാപമുണ്ടാകുമ്പോൾ പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട കെട്ടിടങ്ങളൊക്കെ ആക്രമിക്കപ്പെടുമ്പോൾ എയർപോർട്ട് ആക്രമിച്ചു, സ്റ്റോക്ക് എക്സ്ചേഞ്ച് ആക്രമിച്ചു, സുപ്രധാനമായ പോയിന്റുകളൊക്കെ ആക്രമിച്ചു. അതിനിടയിൽ ശരത് പവാർ കയറി വരുന്നു. എന്നിട്ട് അദ്ദേഹം പറയുന്നു, ആക്രമിക്കപ്പെട്ട ഗല്ലികളിൽ മുഹമ്മദ് അലി റോഡുണ്ട് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ ഈ പാപഭാരം ഇവിടുത്തെ ന്യൂനപക്ഷങ്ങളുടെ തലയിൽ കെട്ടിവെക്കണ്ട എന്ന നിശ്ചയദാർഢ്യത്തിൻ്റെ യഥാർത്ഥ വസ്തുത അദ്ദേഹം പറയുകയായിരുന്നു എന്നുള്ളതാണ്. മറ്റൊരു കാര്യം ആശിഷ് ജി ഇവിടെ പ്രസൻറ്റ് ചെയ്തപ്പോൾ യു റെഫേർഡ് എ നെയിം ദാറ്റ് Tabrez Ansari from, I believe that from Jharkhand, the victim of mob lynching. അദ്ദേഹം ഇവിടെ പറഞ്ഞ തെബറേസ് അൻസാരി ഒരാളെ നുണ പറഞ്ഞ് എങ്ങനെ കൊല്ലാം എന്നതിന് ഇന്ത്യൻ ഉദാഹരണങ്ങളിൽ ഒരു പേര് അദ്ദേഹം പറയുകയുണ്ടായി. ഇവിടെ CK സുബൈർ ഇതിൻ്റെ ജനറൽ കൺവീനറാണ്. ആശിഷ് കേതൻ ഡിസ്ഇൻഫർമേഷൻ പറയുമ്പോൾ അദ്ദേഹത്തിൻ്റെ ഫുട് നോട്ടിലെ ഒരു റെഫറൻസാണ് തബ്രീസ് അൻസാരി എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. പക്ഷേ മുസ്ലിം ലീഗിൻ്റെ യുവജന പ്രസ്ഥാനമായ യൂത്ത് ലീഗിന് തബ്രീസ് അൻസാരി ഒരു റെഫറൻസ് പേരല്ല, അതൊരു പോരാട്ടമാണ്. ഞങ്ങൾ ജാർഖണ്ഡിൽ പോയി തബ്രീസ് അൻസാരിയുടെ ഭാര്യ ഷാഹിസ്ത പർവീനെ അവിടുന്ന് പൊക്കിയെടുത്ത് ഡൽഹിയിൽ കൊണ്ടുവന്ന് ഫുസൈൽ അയ്യൂബിയുടെ മുന്നിൽ അവതരിപ്പിച്ച് ആ പോരാട്ടത്തിന് നേതൃത്വം കൊടുത്ത CH മുഹമ്മദ് കോയയുടെ യുവജന പ്രസ്ഥാനം, CH മുഹമ്മദ് കോയയുടെ ഓർമ്മയിൽ ഈ ആശയങ്ങളിലൂടെ നമ്മളിങ്ങനെ കടന്നു വരികയാണ്. ഡോക്ടർ മുനീർ സാഹിബ് ഇവിടെയുണ്ട്. He written a wonderful book, Gyanshamji, comparison between RSS and Sangh Parivar and fascism, the resemblance, the ideological resemblance and the structural resemblance. So he made, and it was awarded by many bodies and forums. So Dr. Munir Saab is one of the key jury of the CH Mohammed Koya Foundation awarding body. Ashish Gedanji, once you were awarded. I think now he is watching Gyanshamji, how your potential to be awarded. Okay, so let us concluding, we are going to conclude this session and Fatima Tahiliya will do the formal vote of thanks. Before that, Zubair Saab.
I'll just say one thing that I missed in the initial part. I want to convey my warm gratitude to Zubair Saab for a very warm hospitality since yesterday and also a great conduct. Thank you.
ഈ രണ്ട് ഗസ്റ്റുകളും നമ്മളെ സംബന്ധിച്ചിടത്തോളം നല്ലൊരു അനുഭവമായിരുന്നു. ഇനിയും നിങ്ങൾക്ക് എക്സ്പ്ലോർ ചെയ്യാം ത്രൂ ദിസ് പീപ്പിൾ. വി ഹാവ് ദ ടൈം ടു ഇൻട്രാക്ട് വിത്ത് ദം പേഴ്സണലി. അത് നമുക്ക് ജുമക്ക് പോവുകയാണ്. ഇപ്പോൾ ജുമ കഴിഞ്ഞ് കൃത്യം ഇപ്പോൾ പോയാലാണ് നമുക്ക് തിരിച്ചെത്താൻ കഴിയുക. 1 മണിക്ക് ജുമ, ഒരു 1:30 ഭക്ഷണം കഴിക്കണം. അടുത്ത സെഷൻ 2 മണിക്ക്. ഒരു വണ്ടർഫുൾ ഇവൻ്റാണ്. 9:30 വി സ്റ്റാർട്ടഡ് ആൻഡ് എൻഡിങ് വിത്ത് ദ സെയിം 12:30. We have to start by 2 o'clock and we have to end by the 6:30. Evening we have the prominent guest and the Kerala is now storming with the issues. So they will also react on that. So this is a wonderful event and in the name of CH Mohammed Koya. And we are just giving the take away. So take away to these people by the Dr. Munir Khan.
But on behalf of Munir Sahib and you are assigned.
ഓക്കെ, നമുക്ക് ജുമക്ക് വേണ്ടി പിരിയാം. പള്ളിയെക്കുറിച്ച് ഇർഷാദ് പറഞ്ഞുതരും എവിടെയാണുള്ളത്.
ഇല്ല, നമുക്ക് ഇവിടെ ഒരു 500 മീറ്ററിൻ്റെ ഉള്ളിൽ പോകാൻ പറ്റുന്ന 3 പള്ളികളാണുള്ളത്. ഒന്ന് വില്ലൂന്നിയാൽ ക്യാമ്പസിൻ്റെ അകത്ത് തന്നെ ഒരു പള്ളിയുണ്ട്, അതുപോലെ ചെനക്കൽ ഒരു പള്ളിയുണ്ട്, കോഹിനൂരും നമുക്ക് പള്ളിയുണ്ട്. ഈ 3 പള്ളികളായിരിക്കും നമുക്ക് ആക്സസ് കൂടുതലായിട്ടുണ്ടാവുക. 1:30 നമ്മളിവിടെ ലഞ്ച് ആരംഭിക്കും. 1:30 to 2 മണി വരെയാണ് ലഞ്ച് ഉണ്ടാവുക. അപ്പോൾ 1 മണിക്കാണ് ക്യാമ്പസ് പള്ളികളായതുകൊണ്ട് മിക്കവാറും എല്ലാ പള്ളികളും 1 മണിക്കാണ് സ്റ്റാർട്ട് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. അതുകൊണ്ട് പള്ളി കഴിഞ്ഞ് 1:30 നമ്മൾ ലഞ്ച് ആരംഭിക്കും. 1:30 to 2 മണി വരെയാണ് ലഞ്ച്. നമ്മൾ സെൽഫായിട്ട് തന്നെ പല പള്ളികളിലും പോകേണ്ടതുകൊണ്ട് സെൽഫായിട്ട് തന്നെ പള്ളിയിൽ പോയിട്ട് 1:30 ആകുമ്പോഴേക്ക് ലഞ്ചിന് ഇവിടെ ഗ്യാദർ ചെയ്യുക എന്നുള്ളതാണ് നിർദ്ദേശിക്കാനുള്ളത്. ഓക്കെ.